tell you about how, noting that China violated agreements in 2020 by bringing a number of forces along the LAC in Ladakh, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that India responded by counter-deploying troops, and there is a very abnormal deployment along the line of actual control. Now, the minister asserted that India responded by counter-deployment of force, and for 4 years now, the forces have been deployed ahead of the normal base positions at Galwan. Remember, the relations between India and China are strained since June 2020, where clashes broke out in Galwan Valley.
In 2020, the Chinese, in violation of multiple agreements, brought large number of forces to our border, and they did it at a time when we were under COVID lockdown in this country. Presumably, that may have had some bearing on somebody's calculation. Now, we responded by counter-deploying our forces, and then all of you are familiar with the story. We had the clash in Galwan, and for 4 years now, we are both deployed ahead of our normal base positions, normal patrolling zones out there. So it's a very abnormal deployment today along the line of actual control. As Indian citizens, none of us can or should disregard actually the security of our country.
Pradeep, my colleague, joins me for more. Pradeep, good morning. We clearly heard what S. Jaishankar had to say and India's viewpoint about the same. But just for our viewers to better understand India's take on the overall situation of the border standoff.
Yes, what Jaishankar was talking about during the book launch function in Kolkata, that the deployment of the troops on both the sides is abnormal, because reason being that normally they have to be at a particular base camp. That used to be the situation before 2020 when Galwan thing happened. But now what is happening is that they are beyond the patrolling zones. They are almost, it's a kind of eyeball-to-eyeball situation, because after Galwan in 2020, we saw that when 20 or 4 soldiers were martyred. After that, India had responded and hit them hard by targeting equal number of soldiers on their side also. But since then, we have seen that there has been huge deployment from the Chinese side, and there has been a counter-deployment to counter the challenge from the Chinese side. So that's why he's saying that in such a situation, it's a very abnormal situation, because they took advantage of the COVID, because nobody was expecting that they are going to violate all those norms and also peace and tranquility in the region. Because we had seen that there was a war in 1962, because after that there was a kind of no trust between the two countries. But then again, the ice was broken in 1988 when Rajiv Gandhi went to that area. After that, it was decided that they will try to ensure peace and tranquility in the region. But again, in 2020, there was a misadventure from Chinese side. And this time, they came over to Indian side, violating, and Indian troops retaliated and responded effectively, and they were able to thwart the Chinese nefarious design. But since then, there's an abnormal deployment of troops, because there is an eyeball-to-eyeball kind of a situation. Because India is not only facing a security challenge with this deployment, but there is an economic challenge also, which he talked about. When he talked about economic challenge, because he said that there has been neglect over the period of time in the manufacturing sector also, that we need to bridge that gap, because we have to ensure that there has to be a small supply chain, and the business should remain with the country. So he was talking about these two things and how India is countering this thing and ensure that the security of the country can't be disregarded, and that's why all the media...
Pradeep, I'd have to interject you there, but thank you very much for getting us more on the stance that India has taken given the situation. But for the moment, we leave it at that.